Hey, good morning everybody. This is Sean here at Lowell Ranch, here with my beautiful bride, Jamie. And we're gonna take care of the bees today, so just wanted to show you guys our bee yard. So let me flip the camera around and I'll show you what we got going on. All right, so here's our bee yard. We put a fence around here. This is more for safety of humans than it is the bees. Obviously a fence won't keep the bees out, but this seems to be a safe distance where the bees can do their thing, and as long as humans are standing out here, there's really no danger. You can see we've got 3 hives. The box over to the right that actually is going away today, it was an extra box that we took off of the blue hive, but we've got 3 hives with the state flower of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. We kind of had a bad year last year. Oklahoma, we accidentally killed the queen. We got a new queen and it never laid eggs, so Oklahoma died. We're in January right now, which is winter time, so when it comes springtime, we'll get a new nuke and we'll start Oklahoma back up. And in trying to save the hives, we stole quite a bit of brood from the Texas hive, the one on the right. So it's struggling along, but we're gonna hopefully nurse it along through the winter. And then Kansas, actually, when we did our check at the end of the year, had a lot of mites in it. So today we're going to be pulling out the mite treatment. We were waiting for a warm day that we could get out here, and today it's finally over 60 degrees so that we could do that. But that's our bee yard. I think next year we may add another hive, so we have 4. And then right next to our bee yard, we've got this bee shed, and the bee shed contains all of our stuff: extra frames, extra boxes, smokers, tools, everything that we need. So it's just right here close and handy. And then one other thing I was going to show you guys, because here in South Texas we have a pretty short season where we have things blooming, because we're more of an arid kind of desert climate. So sometimes we have these feeders right here that are just PVC, but inside of them we put pollen, and that's actually when there's not pollen for the bees, they can go in there and they take that pollen. When they've got pollen and flowers, they leave that alone. So we just check those every time, fill them up if we need to. And a lot of the time we don't need to with some of the flowers and gardens, but definitely during the summertime, they really start eating out of those pollen feeders. So that's our thing. So today we're gonna go in here and put on our bee suits and open up a couple hives and I'll show you guys a couple videos when we're doing that. You probably see the post down there that is ripped out of the ground. I got a little too close to the fence there with the tractor and the shedder, and ripped that post right out of the ground. So that's another item added to the to-do list. All right, we're going to tear these hives apart. Okay, so before we go in, one of the things we want to do is get our smokers ready. So there's my beautiful bride, Jamie. And we just look for leaves and little twigs and stuff like that on the ground. That's what we put in our smokers. Seems to work just fine. And then once they're in there, then we get them lit up, and you know, where they're smoking really good, and that really calms the bees down, to make sure that you know, they're not pelting us and angry and all that kind of stuff when we go in there to try to help them out. Okay, so we got the smoker running, and it's all ready to go. One of the things that we've learned, I can show you Jamie's here, is in South Texas, these suits, which are vented suits, seems to work really well because it gets hot here, and they let you breathe, especially in the summertime when it's 100 degrees and you're checking on bees. And they're pretty thick, where some of the bees here in Texas can get a little angry, and we've never been stung through these suits, so knock on wood. But what Jamie's doing, we found, you want them over your boots, so you can see, like mine, we found wearing rubber boots or cowboy boots is the best, to where those cuffs fit right around the boots and bees can't get up in there. But you saw Jamie put some duct tape on hers, because they get stretched out over time, the suits do. So having some duct tape there, make sure no bees come up the suit. But it is real important that we check each other, make sure all the zippers are closed, all the Velcro is closed, and everything like that, because you don't want a bee crawling in your suit when you're doing things. So we're almost suited up, and then we'll head into the bee yard. Okay, so here we are in the bee yard. We're all ready. Jamie's got the smoker. Before we open a hive, we always smoke the entrance a little bit. That helps to calm the bees down that are guarding up front. And then we generally just set the smoker in front of the hive. It just lets the smoke kind of permeate the air and just kind of keeps the bees calm. We didn't used to do that, but ever since we started doing that, it seems to be a lot better experience when we open them up. Whenever we open up a hive, Jamie's looking up top. She's looking for mites. She's looking for dead bees. She's looking for anything that may be abnormal. And not mites, I'm sorry, hive beetles, waxy moth, anything like that. The mites are a little bit too small to see. So today we're not doing a full hive inspection. We're just going to open it up. We're going to take out the medication that we put in there for the mites because we want to get that out of there. It's been in there for the recommended amount of time. So you can see the hive tool that she's using. Obviously, you got to have some tool to crack things open because the bees kind of seal everything with the sticky goo. And you can see they're not terribly upset right now. We just try to go slow and keep them from getting angry. But this is a pretty chill hive. Had a good queen in it.
Oh yeah, they're all packed up in here.
All right, so you can see lots of bees on top. You got a little beetle trap up there. It's always on top. We'll probably open that up and refill it with borax, but the bees tend to chase the beetles up to the top of the hive and then into that little trap and to kill the hive beetles. So that's one thing that we'll do today as well. Let me get a little closer so we can just see the hive. And there's a lot of bees in there. They're doing really, really well.
Yeah, they are.
So that's good. This hive is a very healthy hive other than having the mites, but hopefully this mite treatment took care of it. We won't do a mite treatment again until the spring. It's just too cold during the winter, and we don't want to keep them open any longer than we have to. So she's just pulling out the strips that we used. But looks like a good number of bees. We try to manage how many levels are on the beehive based upon how many bees are in there. They're not overpacked, but there is a good number, and their numbers will come down during the winter as well.
Yeah, really cool.
So I'm going to turn off the camera so I can put on a glove and help Jamie out. We're just going to make sure they've got enough honey stores for the winter time, as well as pull the strips out of the bottom. So we'll have to lift that top box off and just make sure there's nothing abnormal that we see. Okay, so jumping back in. So we finished with the Kansas hive, and they had a lot of bees. It was good. They were really full, but they're not too full. And being winter time, it doesn't make sense to add another box because their numbers are going to go down. But they had a lot of honey up top, which is good. That'll feed them during the winter when there's nothing out there for them to get. So now we're looking at our Texas hive. So we smoked it. Jamie's popped the lid off, and you can see a lot less bees in this hive than we saw in the other hive already, and there's only one layer. So this one has an older queen. We're going to requeen it in the spring, so we're just trying to keep it alive during the winter time. And because they are smaller, they don't have near the honey stores that Kansas had. So we're going to be pulling out a frame and adding a feeder, and we're going to feed them some sugar water, which is 1-to-1 ratio of sugar and water. So that's what we're going to be doing here. So usually the frames on the end are the ones that are empty, especially if it's a smaller hive. They usually build and lay babies and stuff in the middle frames. So always look at everything just to see if we're seeing anything weird or abnormal or anything like that. Look at the tops of the frames, the bottoms of the frames, everything, just to see if there's anything not looking right. Today we're not doing a deep hive inspection, so we're not pulling out frames with brood on them, or we're not looking for the queen or anything like that. Just making room so that we can put in a feeder and let them survive through the winter time. I'm going to grab that feeder over there. And you can see these bees are pretty chill. There's the bottom of their hive. So we've got a board in the bottom. I don't know if you can see that or not. But during the winter time, we put a board in there. During the summertime, it's just a mesh bottom. So they get more airflow. But during the winter time, they need to stay little bit warmer than what the temperature allows for. So so here's the feeder. This is a 1-gallon feeder, and just plastic thing. We can pour water in those holes there, and then there's little ladders inside of those holes, the plastic things where the bees can climb down and they can get food. So we will have to refill the sugar water a couple times during the winter till the things start blooming and they've got more food available to them out there, where they can get nectar and everything. So we'll keep an eye on it. It's a small hive, so they probably won't consume it a ton, but maybe every 3 weeks or so we'll have to come back out here and fill it up.
Weather permitting.
Yeah, as long as it's warm enough. Definitely don't want to chill the brood, which is the baby bees, because that'll kill them. So it's got to be warm enough, and normally we'd take more frames out, look at them. We'll do that in the spring or summertime. But right now we're going to keep it open as short amount of time as possible. All right, and that's about it for this hive. So all in all, pretty happy, just trying to keep this hive survive till the spring when we can get it a new queen, and then hopefully it can be thriving like the Kansas hive is. Really pleased with the way that one is doing. It's grown actually since last time we were out here, even with having the mites and everything. So we'll go ahead and fill these, you can see these little beetle hives, and they just open up, and there's a borax in the middle of them, and there's little, I don't know if you can see with the sun, but little entrances where the beetles go. The bees chase them up there. So usually we make sure those are cleaned out, make sure the center's filled up with borax, and then put it back in. That seems to do a really good job in controlling the hive beetles. All right, that's all for today. We'll do some other videos of the bee yard and everything, and when we get some new nukes in the springtime, the new queen, we can show you how we mark the queens if we need to, as well as a lot of other things, and how we harvest honey and all that kind of stuff. Until then, see you guys.